Did you know that just a 2% increase in patient retention has the same effect as decreasing your cost by 10%? That's huge. And that's just a 2% increase in retention. That means stopping patient dropout, right? We're just retaining 2% of people, and that's going to decrease costs by 10%. That's humongous. So, did you also know that the number one reason that patients don't get the full benefits of care is because they drop out prematurely? And that sucks so hard. I like this for me, and I'll give you guys a little background on myself, but when patients drop out of care and don't fully get the benefits of care, they might think of things in their head that are like, oh, I tried chiropractic. I tried it, right? It didn't work for me. They drop out. Or they want to use their insurance benefits and maybe you don't accept their insurance, or their insurance pays a ridiculously low number of visits, like 10 visits a year, 12 visits a year. And patients, they drop out. There's all of these reasons why patients drop out. And we're going to really put a spotlight on that today, because in order for patients to get better clinical outcomes, we need for them to stay the course of care. We need to deliver on the true promise of chiropractic, and we can't do that when they drop out prematurely. So today's webinar is all about 4 strategies for increasing revenue and retention. Revenue and retention, because the side effect of increasing retention is your cash revenue is going to increase as well. And, these should go hand in hand, doctors. You should be getting paid well for what it is that you're doing, for the lives that you're changing. And so it's, yes, we want better clinical outcomes for our patients, but at the end of the day, there should be a financial reward to you as well. So let me share with you a little bit about myself. This is 2002 Holly, right? This is Holly 1.0 right here. So back in 2002, I started out as a chiropractic assistant for Dr. Miles Bodson. And you can see, look how young and adorable I am. You guys, this is 21 years ago. So I come from the old school CAs where we didn't have electronic health records. We had travel cards. We had paper. Our patients, you gave them a chart when they checked in. Here you go, Mary, room 2. And, they're holding their chart, they're opening it, they're looking through it, all this fun stuff. So back in 2002, when I started out as a chiropractic assistant, I didn't have any previous experience working in the chiropractic profession at that time. In fact, I myself just started getting chiropractic care for the first time in my life 21 years ago. And as with all of you who had your own chiropractic story, it changed my life. But what was really hard in practice was seeing the struggles that were going on in practice. In fact, our practice was called Chiropractic Wellness Center. There's me in the middle. There's Dr. Miles Bodson on the right. And there's our associate, Dr. Cameron Sutter, over to the left. And then we have Laura and Lori right there in the middle on either side of me. And, so we're in Southern California. This was in San Diego. So we've always got this SoCal, tropical vibe going on whenever we did patient appreciation days or things like that. But although we are all smiling in this picture, practice wasn't that fun in the beginning. And the reason why is because, number one, we just didn't take 80% of the insurance that was out there. We just were not in network. We didn't take it. We are mostly a cash-based practice. So we accepted insurance, but that wasn't our primary core of where we're getting our patients or how we're getting revenue. But because we didn't accept a lot of insurance, people had to pay out of their pocket. So when I'm saying practice wasn't always fun, it's because I got to witness, as the chiropractic assistant, the struggles that Dr. Miles had in practice because of low revenue, patients dropping out, patients wanting to use their insurance, patients feeling better, so they stop care early. Like, just go ahead and I can see if you guys raise your hand, you have like an artificial hand that you can raise. If you raise your hand, let me know, like, can you relate to anything that I'm saying? Have you ever had patients drop out because they feel better? Have you had patients, you turn them away because you don't accept their insurance, or they leave on their own because they want to use a chiropractor who takes their insurance? Or they have the pain of paying, right? They might not say it, but they have the pain of paying. Yeah. Thank you guys. I appreciate you raising your hand and acknowledging that. So I don't feel so alone in this, but yeah, it sucks when patients drop out. And, at one point in time, it was so hard in practice that Dr. Miles had to move his wife and his newborn baby in with his parents just so that he can make ends meet. Literally, he had hit rock bottom. Here in chiropractic school, he was taught, if patients knew what I knew, they would do what I do. That wasn't it, right? You can educate the patients and they get the big idea of chiropractic and they still drop out. Heck, you have patients who don't even understand. They just know they're feeling better and they continue to stay. But having all of these patients drop out, it was a really challenging time on the practice. And like I said, when Dr. Bodson had to move his family back in with his parents just to make ends meet and keep the practice up and running, that was a real turning point. And it was really hard for me to witness all of that, because as a CA, I knew the miracles of chiropractic that were happening with our patients, but yet they were still dropping out. And seeing Dr. Bodson struggle financially and and I know he shares this as well. At one point, he thought about just closing the doors because it had got so bad. Finances were so tight and revenue coming into the practice was so bad. He thought, wow, maybe I made a bad decision. So what we ended up doing was turning things around. We were able to look at the practice like under a microscope. Like, let's identify all of the areas where patients have an exit door, an artificial exit door to the practice. And we're actually able to identify several of these areas that they were dropping out. So like when they feel better, we don't take their insurance, or their insurance benefits are exhausted, how they're paying. Like, we were identifying all of these exit doors in the practice, and we started patching up those holes in our leaking bucket, right? We started patching up these holes, and that's when things really started to turn around for us. But the main problem that was happening was this poor retention. That's ultimately everything that we identified. It led to poor retention because patients drop out, patients drop out, patients drop out. There's all these excuses, all these reasons, and it all was leading to this poor retention. And we had to figure out how to stop that. What we were able to identify is creating a high retention practice, not necessarily a high volume practice, but a high retention practice. And a high retention practice means our patients are staying despite any challenges that they may have had in the past. They felt better, they still stayed. Their insurance benefits are exhausted, they still stayed. We were asking them to pay for care a certain way, they still stayed. It wasn't all about patient education. So we found these things, and and after doing this for over 20 years, this is why we want to bring it to you guys to help you increase patient retention and deliver on the true promise of chiropractic. I want to play a short clip of this video with you. This is from thecallingmovie.com. By the way, I am the only former chiropractic assistant I know who's ever been portrayed by an actress in a movie. So I want to share with you, once we identified and removed the situations that were causing patients to drop out prematurely, and we were increasing our patient retention and things were humming along, this is what happens in practice. I'm going to play this here for you.
More and more patients were starting care, and more importantly, I was no longer losing patients like I was.
Power's on. All right, Hillary, I'll see you next week.
Holly was happy too. She was able to focus on connecting with our patients instead of just asking for payments. And with each yes she heard, she gained more and more confidence. I remember her telling me,
I love witnessing the miracles of chiropractic. Dr. Miles, for the first time in my life, I feel like I have a real sense of purpose.
Holly, that makes me so happy to hear.
I want you to know that I plan on making a career of serving chiropractic right along with you.
of course, I was thrilled to hear that. I was no longer concerned with the day-to-day operations of the business. Don't get me wrong, I was still involved, but Holly had it totally under control. I often say, although I'm the employer, she's the boss. I was able to do what I had dreamed about all along and just take care of my patients. I love sharing the message of natural health through chiropractic care. Things were really looking up for all of us.
So I want to just focus on that little clip for a moment. You know, in that clip, you heard Holly was able to better connect with the patients and stop asking for money. Like, does that feel good? Heck yeah. Like, raise your hand, you guys. Like, does that feel good? Would you love to be at a point where you have to stop asking people for money? You've made it so easy for them to come in and pay you. You're able to better connect with the patients. Or how about you doctors on this webinar today? I know you would love to be at a point in your career, and maybe you're there now, maybe, you know, you have some things that you have to work on, but a point in your career where you're able to just serve. You're able to serve the people that you love. You're able to make an impact on the lives in your community. And you're not bogged down with like all of the financial conversations, all of the marketing, all of the stuff that goes on behind the scenes that your team helps you with. But it really was a turning point for us because we were able to plug the holes in the leaking bucket. We were able to stop focusing on all the sadness of losing patients, of, you know, patients dropping out. We were able to keep patients, get better clinical outcomes, and that was so much more rewarding to work in a practice like that, where there's systems and procedures and tools in place to help run the practice so that we can all focus on patient care and education, so that we can all make our impact in the world. And that's why I'm still working in the chiropractic profession today, 21 years later, because I felt like I had a real sense of purpose, because practice was fun and it wasn't so stressful. You know, I remember Dr. Miles saying, like, recall the patients. Where's Susie? Where's John? Where are they? Call them. Like, kind of like it felt like it was my fault that they weren't coming in, but that's because we didn't understand why they weren't coming back. And so we figured that out. And let me go back to sharing my screen. Share this with you guys here.
More and more
Here we go.
More and more patients were starting care, and more
Oh my gosh, technical difficulties.
importantly,
Sorry, let me just done. Okay. So all of those successes, you guys, it led me to be on the cover of the Chiropractic Assistant magazine. And I'm so proud to share this with you because, you know, you see here, it says Holly, you know, helping CAs increase cash collections. I wish it would say helping CAs increase patient retention. But what I want to point out here is it says Holly Jensen finds career in chiropractic rewarding. This is not a job for me. This is my career. And because Dr. Miles was able to invest in me as a chiropractic assistant, whether, you know, it's seminars or classes or webinars, just like you're attending now, you know, all of these things that the doctor you're doing to empower your CA, I wanted to be there right along with him and serve our patients. And so I'm very proud of this. So you know, if there's any CAs on this webinar right now, kudos to you, because I hope that you're able to find a way to be inspired by the work that you do. And this becomes a career for you and not just a job. All right. Let's talk about opportunity here. There's a lot of opportunities I'm going to be sharing with you today. I'm going to be going over the 4 strategies to increase revenue and retention. Please have paper and pen handy. I also have a free gift because I know that you guys took time out of your day to spend with me, and I'll have an opportunity for you to be able to take advantage of a gift, like seriously a gift that I want to give to you guys. So stay tuned for that. So what makes a patient loyal and not drop out? So I talk about patient retention, but I love talking about patient loyalty because loyalty has a whole different meaning to it, right? It's not just about retention. It's about people who are loyal to you. There could be all this noise out in the world. It could be a pandemic, right? They're still coming into you. So what makes patients loyal and not drop out? We've identified there's 4 things. Number 1, loyal patients need frequent contact. And I'll go through each of these in details. Number 2, loyal patients need feedback that's intuitive. Loyal patients need a frictionless payment experience. And number 4, loyal patients need forecasted care or a game plan. Notice how each of these starts with an F. These are the retention principles. We refer to these as the 4 Fs to make it really easy to connect and understand. These are the 4 Fs. They need frequent contact, feedback that's intuitive, frictionless payments, and forecasted care. So let's dive in here. So retention problem number 1 is patients don't know what the game plan is. Maybe you tell them that, like, okay, let's get you started with care, see how you do, and we'll go from there. We'll reevaluate at the next re-exam. And at the next re-exam, you tell them, let's do more care. So when patients don't know what the game plan is, it's not rock solid. It's not presented as like, hey, here's what we do in our practice. This based upon your exam, x-rays, your posture analysis, whatever it is that you're doing in your practice to show the patient how you can help them get results. They need to know what the game plan is for that. So if your game plan in order to get results is, 4 months of care and there's 24 visits over the next 4 months and it includes the following therapies, they need to know that. They need to know what the game plan is. It's the same as goal setting. If you don't know what goals you're going after, how are you going to know when you've reach it, right? When you've gotten there. And so this is really the number 1 problem that we see in the chiropractic profession is patients, they just don't know what the game plan is. So the retention solution is present patients with a comprehensive care plan with all of their financial options listed out that's clear on what it takes to reach the goal of care. So if it's a 6-month, 40-visit program of care, you're listing that out. You're showing them what that looks like and what the financial options are, how many visits they're going to take. Like they need a really clear game plan. It's kind of like, Dr. Miles uses this analogy of like, let's say, you have your kid, you sign your kid up for soccer and your kid's out there playing soccer and they're using their hands. They're getting called out all the time, right? Well, they didn't know what the rules of the game were. So they don't know how to play. Same with your patients. They need to know what the rules of the game are. And the rules are, in order to get results, you need to come in, 3 times a week, 2 times a week. It's 40 visits over the next 6 months. They need to know what that is. And there's a way that you can present that. It's not as direct as I just said it, right? But they need to have a comprehensive care plan with financial options that are super clear on what it takes to reach that goal. Here's an example. We give our patients a very clear, concise care plan. It's multiple pages. It shows them all of the services, products, therapies that is going to take to, in this example here, you can see it's 6 months and they're going to be getting 40 visits. And there can be insurance in this too. And that's one mistake that I see out in the profession with the thousands of offices that I've been able to have the honor to train and work with is patient wants to use their insurance. So they'll put the patient on care, use their insurance, and once their insurance benefits are exhausted, they try to convert them to a cash paying patient. that doesn't work because guess what happens? Patients used to paying this $38 copay. Insurance runs out and we're like, oh, hey, Sally, your insurance is exhausted. The new your copay was $38, but the per visit fee is $60. Patients are like, oh, wow, would you look at that? I feel better. I'll see you in January when my insurance benefits kick back in. Oh, I hated that. That was like the worst, feeling to have patients do that when they were all on board in the beginning while they're paying copays, but then insurance is exhausted, they magically feel better. So by forecasting care, clearly outlining all of their financial responsibilities to your practice for insured and non-insured visits, and you're able to package that up and give them affordable payment options. You see in my example, I have 3 payment options: monthly payments, a down payment with smaller monthly payments, or prepay. And by the way, my disclaimer here is what you're seeing is for illustration purposes only. This is not a recommendation of the types of care or services or fees or discounts that you should be applying in your office. So there's my legal statement. But you see, it's a multi-page document, which also it very clearly outlines for the patient what happens if they get in a car accident. Now this is a PI case. What happens if they miss visits, or if they go on vacation, if they need to stop care? How do you address that? We want to make it super easy for people to say yes to care, and having clarity on all sides, whether doctor, team, patient, by removing situations that cause patients to have those artificial exit door. It's in the practice. It's really going to help increase patient retention. So forecasting care is one of the biggest areas. If of all of the things that I talk about today about increasing patient retention and reducing dropout, forecasting care has the most impact on patient retention, the most impact of everything I'm going to talk about today. Okay, retention problem number 2. Patients feel better and they drop out of care. This is number 2 because this happens a lot. Patients feel better. They don't understand why they're still needing to come in 2 times a week for the next 8 weeks. They don't even understand why they're coming in for 3 times a week sometimes. But when they start feeling better, they drop out of care because if they don't understand how their symptomatic improvement relates towards the overall big picture of care. So this is a huge problem. And we have found that this retention solution for patients dropping out because they feel better is that patients need to know their progress that they're making towards the goal of care, right? So in our practice, Dr. Bodson focused on restoring the cervical curve. So no matter what the reason is that the patient came in for, clinically, if they needed, 6 months, 8 months, 12 months of care, then we were recommending that to them, but we were giving them feedback along the way because we know they're going to start feeling better faster, especially if they're coming in, 2-3 times a week, they're going to feel better faster, but then we need to keep them on track. And so one thing that you can do to give them feedback that's intuitive is we would give them a report card. So based upon our exam findings, so whether, you're doing like core flexibility or measuring core strength, or you're measuring the number of subluxations, or all of these different things that you measure, posture, substation, all of those things, patients don't know what the heck any of that stuff means. They just know like they had that performed in their exam. But when we can give them a letter grade that shows them, hey, John, based upon everything we've measured, your overall health and wellness score is a D-. They're like, oh, crap, I've never been a D at anything in my life. So it changes the conversation. It elicits an emotional response. It changes the conversation so much that you'll go from, doc, what do we have to do to get rid of this neck pain, to, doc, what do we have to do to get me an A? Right? It changes the conversation. So when patients are feeling better, we're like, well, John, you've been here for 24 visits. Based upon the last exam that we've done, You've made progress. You were at a D- when you first started. You're now at a C. Keep up the good work. Our goal here in our practice is to get you to optimal health, which is an A, or as close to an A as possible. So it changes the conversation. And this CAs, this is something that's really easy for you to be able to do too. I know when I first started as a CA, I didn't fully understand why, how to communicate with patients who were feeling better. I would just, go to the doctor and be like, oh, hey, John said he's feeling better. And he doesn't know why he's still coming in, 2 times a week. Well, this makes it easier, CAs, because you could be like, hey, John, based upon your last exam, you were a C. Remember, the goal in this office is to get you as close to an A as possible. We're focused on your overall health and wellness, not just symptomatic improvement. So it really helps everybody on the team to be able to give feedback that's intuitive, because everybody understands letter grades. So we use a report card system in our office to help give that feedback. Next, we have here, this is just an example I put in. We're showing the patient before and after, because everybody loves to see before and afters, right? Whether it's x-rays or makeovers or home improvements, everybody wants to see the before and after. So, if we had a patient start care and their overall health and wellness score was an F, we were able to show them, hey, you've been under care for 6 months where, you're going to be coming in 2 times a week now. And, you're currently measuring at a C. Let's get you as close to an A as possible. So again, we're just reiterating this. And by the way, this isn't in the webinar. I'm going to sidetrack with this. Showing patients their before and after, the progress that they've made. If they haven't yet referred in a loved one or a friend, I usually get a referral here when they can see evidence that they have this before and after. They like sharing that with people. And we give this to them on a printout, the same as, teacher gives you an A on your report card. You post that baby on the fridge, you share it with your friends. Well, we have patients who will take pictures of their before and after and brag about this. So imagine if your company information, your practice information was on this wellness score and they're sharing this with their friends and family, you're going to be getting referrals. So that's a side effect of giving the feedback that's intuitive. So using report cards to do that is very helpful. Retention problem number 3, patients are asked to pay in a way they wouldn't normally pay, or they're frequently asked for money. So let me illustrate this for a moment. I know at one point in Dr. Miles's chiropractic career, he went to some coaching company and they were like, prepays are the way to go. Doctor, get everybody on prepays. You know what sucks about prepays is you feel like a salesperson trying to get patients to pay for things in a way that's not normal for them. Think about this for a moment. Let me ask you guys a question. Go ahead and put this in the chat. I want you to put this answer in the chat. Let's say you're going to buy a car. Are you going to buy the car based upon the total purchase price of the car or the monthly payments that you can afford? Put that in the chat right now. I'm looking at it. Okay. Are you going to buy the car based upon the total purchase price of the car? Or are you going to buy the car based upon the monthly payments that you can afford? Yeah, payments. Thank you, everybody. Payments. So why would you ask your patients to pay for or to only offer prepayment as the only option? Because 95% of the American population makes their purchase decisions based upon what they can afford monthly. Yes, there are absolutely some people in the population who will go ahead and prepay for things, but they naturally do that. So you saw earlier when we give patients 3 payment options, we give them monthly payment options, a down payment followed by smaller monthly payments, another way to buy a car, right? or prepay. So majority of people are going to fit into the first two models. They're going to choose monthly or down payment with smaller monthly payments. So by forcing them only one payment option, I've also found out that DC means Doctor of Creativity. Have you guys heard that one before? I have seen so many creative payment solutions out there, like quarterly payments and 3 payments per year and like all this weird stuff. You guys, that's not normal. You have to ask people to pay in a way that is normal. That's the rest of society is doing. So by offering monthly, down and monthly or prepay, that is more natural for people. So make that one of your, things that you're doing in practice. And then asking patients for money frequently. Let's say maybe you don't offer any sort of payment plans in your office, but people pay as they go. Well, every time people have to make a conscious decision of like, oh gosh, every time I go to the chiropractor, it's $60, it's $80. They might be like, you know what? I need a nail filled today. I'm going to skip out on today's visit and go. So that is an exit door to the practice. So how often you're asking people to pay or how you're asking them to pay can be a huge problem with retention. And moving on here. Let me show you here. The retention solution to that is you want to create a frictionless payment experience for all payments being collected, whether it's one-time payments or recurring payments. You want to be able to create a system that puts patients' cards on file. Now, when I say cards on file, I'm not talking about old school Holly CA cards on file, which was back in the day, it was illegal. Well, it wasn't illegal then. It's illegal now. And that would be, anybody know what a tickler box is? Anybody else? If you put it in there, that you've used a tickler box, I might have something fun for you. So a tickler box was basically like an index card box, like where you put recipes in, right? But we had note cards in there, and we would have patients on payment plans, and I would write down their credit card number. And then on the 1st or the 15th of the month, I'm sitting there in our terminal typing in those darn credit card numbers. And we called that an auto debit. Okay. That is not a legal practice anymore based upon PCI DSS compliance rules and regulations. So you have to use a PCI DSS compliant program to store cards on file. Also, by the way, I know some of you keep cards in like on an Excel spreadsheet and say only one person. No, can't do that, guys. That's totally wrong. You cannot do that. So keep cards on file and then automate the way the payment's being collected. So if somebody is on a monthly payment plan, those payments they're automated. You're not pressing a button. You're not inputting information to collect the money. It's just automated. Okay. The other thing is, let's say you have patients who are not necessarily on a payment plan. They always pay a copay, whatever time they come in, or they just have you charge their card on file. I love this because by, creating a financial policy in your practice, and you let your patients know, hey, we automate the way payments are being collected. We prefer to debit directly from your bank account or your credit card. Which do you prefer? So it's a yes or yes answer, right? It's not like, oh, how do you want to pay? How do you want to pay? And by the way, when I started out as a CA 21 years ago, I sucked with collecting money. It was super uncomfortable for me because I had a poverty complex. I thought, oh, if I can't afford it, they can't afford it, right? So it was my own in my head. And I hear some offices are like, oh, our patients don't like monthly payments. Really? How many of them did you survey to get to that answer? I think that's being lazy if you say something like that, because everywhere you go around, payments are automated. Like you can pay with your Apple Watch now. So payments are automated. All of these companies are trying to make a frictionless payment experience so that consumers use more and they spend more. And that's what you want to do in your practice as well. So imagine you put cards on file for people on payment plans. Their payments are automatically coming in. The money's going to your bank account. They get an email receipt. Or for people who are doing one-time payments, you're like, hey, Sarah, today it's going to be $60. I'll charge your card on file and email the receipt to you. Let's get your next appointment scheduled. I mean, how easy is that? So, if you let people leave without collecting money, you could call, oh, hey, sorry, I forgot to collect your payment today. I'll just charge a card on file and email the receipt to you. Makes it super easy. So not only are you going to have higher patient retention, but you're also going to have higher cash collections because you're automating the way payments are being collected and you're creating a frictionless payment experience. By the way, none of us love asking for money. Patients don't like being asked for money. We all know there needs to be a value exchange. So I'm really driving this one home because this is one of the easiest things for you to implement in your practice of everything that I'm going over today. Here's some examples of what we would do in our office. So we'd have a payment authorization form. They would sign, leaving their billing on file, leaving their signature on file. So I'm not even having them sign a receipt each and every time. What happens, especially when you have a really busy practice, you have a line of people waiting to check out because they have to pay, right? Imagine not having to do that. And the conversations that you are having with patients aren't always about money. They're about creating connection, asking for referrals, patient education. So putting cards on file, putting signatures on file, automating the way money is being collected is going to make a huge improvement in your practice on creating a frictionless payment experience. By the way, you guys, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat section. And Dr. Valerie, she is going to filter those into me. And I'm definitely going to save time at the end of the presentation to go over any questions as well. All right, next, retention problem number 4. Patients are not educated enough about the benefits of care and drop out. That's a problem. That's a huge problem. And I find, especially for team members, they're not totally comfortable on communicating patient education. But patient education isn't the answer. Because like I said, in chiropractic school, right, that was one of the biggest things that you were taught was like, patients knew what you do. They would do what you do. But people know that they shouldn't smoke and they still do. People know that they should exercise and they still don't. So why do you think chiropractic's any different? Telling them in table talk or newsletters isn't all that it takes. And that's why we've identified, these 4 areas where these exit doors to the practice open up, and patient education is not it. And so the retention solution to patient education really is frequent contact. You need to be sending out emails, whether it's education or newsletters or announcements. You guys, if you don't have a texting platform to notify patients of appointments, you're way behind. That's nothing I sell. I'm just telling you, you've got to get texting in your office when it comes to appointments. Social media posts. I know a lot of doctors are like, oh man, I hate social media. I don't understand it. I don't want to get on the old TikTok and blah, 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 blah. But all of these things, doctor, if it's not you doing the social media post, this is stuff your team can help with. There's companies out there that can help with this stuff. But in addition to the table talk, you've got to be frequently in front of people, especially with technology today. They're just inundated with all this BS out in the world. So you need to be everywhere they are, right? Their phone is in their hands all the time. So you need to hit them up with email. You need to be texting stuff. You need to be on social media in addition to the table talk. One thing that we do in our practice to help with patient education, besides all of those things, is we automate patient education via email. So we have a whole library full of pre-made educational chiropractic content that lets the patient know, if they're a new patient and they're enrolled into a program of care, I just hit one button and the patient is receiving one email a week for the next 6 weeks, letting them know how they're benefiting from chiropractic. So that's just one of many areas that you could do to stay in frequent contact with your patients. But, and by the way, emails are great because you just forward those out. They're like, oh man, this reminds me of my husband. He's constantly dealing with headaches. So emails are a great way to help with frequent contact. So let's just review what makes a patient loyal and not drop out. It's the 4 F's, right? So loyal patients need frequent contact. Loyal patients need feedback that's intuitive. Loyal patients need frictionless payments, and loyal patients need forecasted care or a game plan. So these are the retention principles. We refer to these as the 4Fs, you guys. Now, a 5% increase in retention can grow profit by up to 75%. Just a 5% increase in retention. So I hope that you were able to learn some things that you could be doing in your practice to identify and neutralize all of those exit doors in your practice, because just increasing retention by 5% can really help your revenue. Now, to create a high retention practice, you want to apply the 4Fs throughout what we call the loyal patient journey. Apply the 4Fs throughout the loyal patient journey. So I want to give this to you guys. It looks like a game board, kind of like Candyland, right? So this is the loyal patient journey. We've identified 11 areas where you can neutralize those exit doors to your practice. You'll see on this roadmap, there's danger zones. There's actually 11 danger zones. And these danger zones will share with you like, hey, if you're not doing this in the report of findings, the danger zone is the patient's going to not enroll into a program of care. If you're not giving feedback to the patient throughout the course of care, the danger is that they can drop out because they start feeling better because they don't understand what the overall goal of care is. Or the danger zone is you're asking them to pay every time they come in, or you're asking them to prepay only. But if you automate the way payments are being collected and you offer other payment options, you can neutralize that exit door to the practice. So all of these in combination help give you the highest retention rate possible. And guess what? You're going to be getting better clinical outcomes because your patients are following through. Your patients are more compliant. So go ahead and take your cell phones out right now. I want you to scan this QR code. For those of you who might be a little technology challenged when it comes to QR codes, you can go to events.loyalpatients.com. This is a free interactive web page where you can experience the loyal patient journey. And then you can also download the free digital roadmap that will show you how to turn ordinary patients into loyal patients, giving you the high revenue, high retention practice of your dreams. But I encourage you not just to download this. I encourage you to go through this interactive web page. Click on the danger zones, watch the short little 1-minute videos that are on there, that it will explain what's happening in that step and how to avoid losing the patient in that step. I just want to share some things with you. You know, by applying these 4 business retention principles, the 4Fs, we see our cash practice members. And by the way, I'm not sure if I even got to mentioning that. Not only am I a patient loyalty expert or a former CA, I'm Chief Operations Officer of a company called Cashpractice, and we help practices increase revenue and retention by applying the 4Fs. I showed you examples of care plans, wellness scores, the report cards, emails. We provide all of those services. We are not an EHR company. We don't do texting. We don't do things like that. We're very good at what we do, and that's creating loyal patients. And in fact, you'll see this doctor who's been with us since 2007, started collecting $142,000 a year. And by the end of 2021, they're at 2.2 million. This is not a get rich quick program, you guys. This is get wealthy over time. This is longevity and the health of your practice. Here's another one. Doctor, been a member with us since 2016. Collections starting at 1.8 million. At the end of 2021, they were 4.3 million. Another one. This doctor's been in practice or a member since 2018, started at 1.5 million, ended in 2021 at 2.4 million. And another one, I could do this all day. Now, the only practices that grow month after month and year after year are those practices who add more patients to the practice, and more importantly, don't lose them. They keep their patients. They have a high retention practice. They have consistent cash growth. They have consistent cash growth. So they're not losing patients. They're adding patients to the practice and keeping them. So it's time for change. It's time for change. And I want to share with you guys, time is an equal opportunity employer. Every single one of us has the same amount of time. Scientists can't create more minutes. Rich people can't buy more time. We can't save time and spend it on another day. But amazingly, time is forgiving and fair. So no matter how much time that you've wasted in the past, you still have an entire today. So I urge you not to waste any more time. If you're challenged with any of the things that I've outlined for you today, and you want more time with your family, more time on your practice, more time to have joyful moments in your life, and more time to not worry about your finances, I urge you to take action on my offer. And my offer is so simple. Book a 10-minute call with a cash practice patient loyalty expert now, because you're in chiropractic. Humanity needs you. Lives depend upon it. Book a call with us, just a 10-minute call, and see how we may be able to help you increase patient retention and cash revenue and give you the practice of your dreams. You could also visit cashpractice.com/retention. But I really appreciate the time that you've been able to spend with me today. I'm going to take a look at questions or comments and see if we have anything coming through. So please take this moment now and put in the chat or question section if you have any questions, comments, or even feedback. I welcome feedback, just what we talked about. Feedback's important, right? Or it's important for our patients as well. So Dr. Val, if there's anything that you want to relay to me or any comments that you want to make while we're waiting on any questions to come in, please go ahead.
I haven't seen any comments come through yet, but I just want to say, Holly, I just appreciate your passion and the energy that you put into these presentations and everything you do. And what I love as a doctor of chiropractic about Cash Practice is that this company truly cares about the members and the success of the chiropractic profession. And that's what I love seeing. I love seeing that we're helping these doctors help patients, and it's just the boundaries of that are endless. So
I really appreciate you saying that, Dr. Val. That means a lot. And I know you get to see, not only coming from working in your own practice for 20 years, but, seeing the impact that Cash Practice Systems has on practices, on patients, on the team members, because it's all about having joy in practice and, changing lives through chiropractic and being able to deliver on that makes it for a very rewarding experience, no matter on which end you're on. Because, as a CA, if you find your what you're doing rewarding, you're going to love it and you're going to stay there for a long time. Doctors have the advantage of already knowing, the impact that it creates on their patients' lives, but they might be struggling with patient retention or the patients dropping out. And so I appreciate you sharing that. What our mission is here at Cash Practice is to really help everybody thrive and prosper and be of service and all of that. So I hope that you at least book a 10-minute call with a Cash Practice patient loyalty expert, get answers to your questions. We're going to help you figure out how we may be able to be of service to you. We can give you tips and advice on the things that you've heard today so that you can have a high retention practice you'll be able to turn ordinary patients into loyal patients. So thank you all so much. Have a blessed day, and we look forward to being of service to you. Bye-bye.